Welcome to A Slice of Therapy. This podcast was created with Anchor. And if you've not heard of Anchor, let me explain. It's free. It's a really easy way to make a podcast. And it helps me because I can just do this every day directly into my phone, because there's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. So if you fancy making a podcast too, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. All the time, at every single moment, our nervous system, without referring to our conscious thought in any way, is listening out for cues of safety and for cues of threat. And it happens outside of our awareness, but our nervous system is just attuned to do this, and it does this moment to moment. It's the thing which notices that somebody's face changes. So what was a moment ago quite friendly now looks perhaps cross or upset with you. It's the thing that notices the noise that you didn't expect to hear by your door. It's the thing that registers when somebody walks round the corner and your nervous system picks up on a potential threat from this person. And all day, every day, from moment to moment, it's listening out for these cues, these signs of safety and unsafety, and it's changing our physiological state from moment to moment. At some points, it will energize us in order to be able to respond to that threat, and at other points, it will slow us back down again. If we're safe, it slows us down into a place of rest and okayness. And if we're not safe, it can shut us down. And the reason that I'm telling you this is that once we become aware of the fact that this is happening, it allows us to go deeper than just the story that we're telling ourselves. It allows us to go deeper than just the things that we're doing, the behaviour that we're engaged in. It allows us to go deeper even than the feelings that we're feeling in our body and emotionally. And it allows us to kind of trace back in the knowledge that all of those things have initially been impacted by some cue for danger or safety. And cues for safety will lead us towards connection. And if we find connection too difficult in that situation, then we'll move towards protection instead. And so if we're feeling more connected and feeling safe in that connection, then we can kind of trace that back and know that there are cues in our environment. And there are situational cues in that moment which are cues of safety. And if we're feeling more the need to kind of move into a more protective state, whether that be shut down or whether that be high energy, then we can trace it back and know that even if we're not aware of what the trigger is, that there is some cue for unsafety that is leading us there. So what I want to do today, having taught you that little bit, is to give you a way of moving through 5 steps from what's happening at the surface to going deeper. And so you can trace all this stuff back to what those cues might be. And I think this is useful because often in therapy and stuff like that, we'll focus on the story. You know, what are the beliefs at play? And that can be really valuable. But what's just as important to think, and in fact what shapes what beliefs we have about ourselves and others and life, is what the cues are that our nervous system has picked up upon, and how our nervous system has then shaped our physiology, which then leads us to feeling what we feel, which then leads us to doing certain things. And then at the end of the process, we'll kind of throw a story on that to explain it all. The advertising executive, Rory Sutherland, has a great phrase. He says that our rational mind is not the thing which decides things, but instead it's like our PR department. It's like our legal and PR department. It comes about after the fact and gives some sort of narrative to what's just happened. So the rationalisation of the story actually comes after everything else, rather than the thing that precedes everything else and decides the rest of things. So here's the 5 steps. So if you notice that you have, and you can come into this at any point, by the way. So you could come in, a little bit deeper. You might notice something a little bit deeper and then start tracing it back from there. You don't have to be at the top of the building, if you like, in order to be bringing stuff back. But let's go to the top of the building. And at the very top of that, you might notice that there is this story, this rationalisation for what's going on within us that is at play. And so that'll be a story about what this means that this has happened, what this means that I'm feeling this way, what this means that I'm doing this, what the beliefs are about myself and who I am, what the beliefs are about other people, what my beliefs are about life itself, how hard it is, how difficult it is, my beliefs about the world in general. And all of these are the stories that are placed over the top of what's going on physiologically for me. So when we notice one of those stories where we offer some meaning, some explanation, or some belief system, we can actually then notice it and go a step deeper. And when we go a step deeper, this is the second step, we go a floor down, if you like. We notice the behaviour. So what is it that the behaviour that story is explaining? So I don't know, maybe you're being very distant from a person or something like that. That might be the behaviour. Or maybe you're acting out in some way. So you started with the story, but the story is really explaining how you're behaving in that moment. And so when you notice the behaviour, you can actually go a floor deeper again and connect that behaviour to the feelings and emotions that are going on inside you. How are you feeling? And this is why you can come at this at any floor, because you might actually notice the feelings first and say, oh, that's interesting. I'm feeling all jangly. I'm feeling down, or I'm feeling hyped up, or I'm feeling aggravated. And you can notice the energy in you. And is it a happy energy, or is it an agitated energy? Or is it a shut down energy where there's not much energy there at all? So those feelings, those emotions, you can actually take that back a step. And so ask yourself, well, what state am I in at the moment? And there's 3 states that your nervous system will go in. It'll either be okay, everything feels safe, doesn't have to feel terrific, just okay, where you feel okay to connect and to be engaged with others. Or it can be fight or flight, very high energy, on alert. Or you might be in a state of shutdown. And shutdown tends to happen if you're unable to solve the problem. Because what we'll do typically is we'll be okay, and then a problem will arise, and we will get amped up, we will get energized, because that's our body's way of trying to get us to then solve the problem and give us the energy to fix it. But then if we fail to solve the problem repeatedly, especially, then we will often go into shutdown at that point, where our energy really drops and we kind of give up. We no longer feel even safe enough to engage in that activity of trying to solve the problem, and we shut down. And so you can see how we've traced it there from story, going deeper to noticing our behaviour, going deeper to noticing our feelings, And then getting to the point where we're noticing which of the three states we're in. Are we either feeling safe, so therefore we're okay, or we're feeling less than safe, and so we're either in a state of high energy, like a fight or flight, or a shutdown energy. And once that you appreciate what state you're in, which of those three of okay, fight or flight or shutdown that you're in, you can take it back one level further and ask yourself, well, what was my body picking up on? What were the cues of danger or safety that led my nervous system to move me into that state? Because it's doing that without any conscious intervention whatsoever. It's completely out of awareness. It just moves it instantly. And it does that instantly because it's acting in service of your survival. And so if there was a genuine threat, it wants you to act quickly. And so it's an inbuilt system, an inbuilt alarm system that is constantly listening and constantly making those physiological bodily adjustments inside your body to change your nervous system's state so that it is in the best position possible, as your nervous system understands it, to help you survive. And so once you've gone from story to behaviour, to noticing the feelings, to then identifying the state, you can then go to the deepest level and start listening in, like reflect on what it was that your nervous system actually heard. What were the cues that it listened in on that gave it a cue for safety or for something that felt less than safe? And so by that process, especially as we do it a lot, you can get very, very skilled at being on a very similar level to your own nervous system. And really, I mean, obviously this is a short podcast, so I won't go into too much more detail, but it's kind of like the core skill, I suppose, of understanding how this amazing system that we all have, this autonomic nervous system that's constantly listening out, shapes our state. And then, as a result of being in a particular state, will give us different feelings, often different actions, and then the story will come from that. You'll find that your view of the world, when everything's okay, and your view of yourself, and the story you tell yourself around all of that, is a much happier story than when you're, say, in a state of shutdown. And so the state that we're in, which is a direct result of those cues of safety or unsafety that our nervous system picks up on, has a massive impact on those kind of conscious beliefs that we're holding about ourselves and the world. So this that I've just explained is like the core skill of understanding and getting to grips with our own nervous system and listening in with it and starting to understand what the cues are. Now, sometimes when you take it back, because our nervous system is so sophisticated and the cues can be so subtle, we might not notice some of the cues. We might find ourselves scratching our head and thinking, well, why did I move into that energized state at that point? I can't find the cue. Well, that's okay. Sometimes we can't. But a lot of the time, we'll be able to go back and notice what the cues of danger were. And once we know that, it gives us a starting point to maybe resolve those cues of danger or minimize those cues of danger and bring in cues of safety that will start to give us a different state. Because the way we move from one state to another is to resolve those cues of danger and give ourselves some cues of safety instead. And so hopefully this has been a helpful kind of quick dive into the nervous system and how it impacts us and how you can get attuned to it so that you can understand what's going on for yourself a little bit better. And if you found it helpful, please do share it because it's valuable information and a lot of people simply don't know about. And in fact, even a lot of therapists don't know about this stuff. So please do share it so more people can find out about it and know how to start to use that information. If you'd like to work with me directly, I'm Alun Parry. You can work with me one-to-one. You can find out more about me at liverpoolpsychotherapy.co.uk. And of course, please feel free to subscribe to the podcast. It's completely free wherever you get them. So thanks for listening, and I'll be back tomorrow with another one.